Hey guys, Bix Weir, roadtour.com, coming to you from Winnie, the RV that my wife named. I wanted a cool name like Duke or Rock or Stud or whatever, and she came up with Winnie because it's a Winnebago, and on the registration it said, you know, they can't fit Winnebago, so it said Winnie. She goes, oh, what a cute name. So I'm now driving the coolest cute named RV, Winnie. That's okay. I had it registered in her name, so I guess she gets to pick what we call it. Having said that, Josh and I filmed a video going through what Winnie looks like and all the features and all that. You can go on to the Winnebago website and look up Echo, E-K-K-O. That's the model I got. I heard the wait now is a year and a half. A year and a frickin' half. I mean... And if you do order it, get ready for delays. So we're at a year and a half plus delays. But I got mine. And it's one of those things you can do it just putting the deposit down. That's when you're buying things these days, just put a deposit down and don't pay for the whole thing because it might never show. That's our new philosophy. We had a couple things on order that we're like, I don't know if we're ever going to get it. So we canceled the order. Most people understand that if they miss their delivery date, you know, they'll give you your money back. But what I want to talk about today is not just this, but last night I watched the Bitcoin bin Clif High discussion. I think it was on Twitter. I didn't, maybe it was on Bitcoin Bin's Patreon site, probably was. So go to Patreon Bitcoin Bin and you will see an amazing discussion of Clif High talking about the future, and that's what I want to start concentrating on at Road to Ruta. I mean, I can say all I want, and we can talk to all the psychics we want about how the future will be, and nobody knows for sure. Nobody knows for sure. We create our future, so there are, as far as I understand, and my understanding of how the future will play out is that we are given a framework to come here and participate in, and within that framework, it's up to you and the people collectively to figure out how your future needs to be. Penny Kelly and I talked about this quite a bit, and I think that's a wonderful way to think about it. Yeah, the future is what we make it, but it is within certain guidelines to give us challenges, to give us something to strive for. I do believe with all my heart, and I know through all my research into the Fed, into the good guys versus bad guys battle, that the good guys have won and are winning continually. This is a process we have to go through. People have to understand why this chaos is coming. And obviously, the destruction of the fiat system is going to be chaotic. And the reason I say obviously, it is the 100% the reason we have been living this way for the past 100 and, whatever years. Over 110 years. About 110 years. Ever since they found the gold in the Grand Canyon, they decided to create the Federal Reserve System because they didn't want to go through the chaos. That's the key thing to understand. Our politicians and our people are too afraid to go off something that is, even though they know it's so criminal and so corrupt and so bad for us, we hesitate in leaving the old system and going to something new. But like all systems that are built on quicksand, unsound foundations, manipulation, coercion, murder, wars, this one will end, and it has to end. Do not give it to our kids. It has to end. So when you hear politicians saying, well, like, what's her name? Stump Berry, the CFTC politician, or CFTC commissioner, and Rustin Benham, the head of the CFTC, say it's for the good of the country that we allow manipulation. We don't want to see the 401ks be demolished and the currency to be destroyed. You need to remember, this only makes the problem worse. This only makes the problem much worse. And that's what everybody has to remember. Every time you save the system, the later ramifications will be much, much worse. They should have dealt with the problem of all the gold in the Grand Canyon and throughout the United States back in the early 1900s when the problem originally was discovered. And yes, having millions of ounces of gold in the world is a huge problem. Not so much anymore because we don't use gold as money. But back then, oh my God, can you imagine? The whole world was on a gold standard. Can you imagine the ramifications of going from a United States with about 120 million ounces of gold in circulation to a United States with millions and millions and millions of tons? Billions and billions and billions of ounces of gold. Obviously, that's why Woodrow Wilson, that's why they had the meeting at Jekyll Island. And G. Edward Griffith, I love you, buddy, but you didn't dive in. You didn't know the root cause of that meeting. And he actually saw a presentation I gave down in Acapulco and said, hey, we need to get together. And I agree. So G. Edward Griffin, give me a call, and I would love to do a seminar with you, a discussion, and we'll talk about the ramifications of what happened after the Jekyll Island meeting, which is really important to everybody. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, it's time to do your monetary homework, because you need a full understanding of everything. If you're going to run around and say, oh, Jesra and Nesra and the quantum financial system is what's happening, you don't have a full understanding unless you know the full story. You need to understand banking, how we got in this place, into the situation in the first place. And that was because of what, it's all the same thing. And Alan Greenspan knows this as well, who invented the computer programs in the 60s and 70s to rig the systems we live in today. The same thing means you're kicking the can down the road so the future generations will be hurt the most. And that was all the idea behind the golden rule of economics. The golden rule of economics is a theory from the 60s, and it has all to do about it is immoral to put future generations in debt from your abusing the money system. It would be immoral to put our children in debt and their children in debt, and that's exactly what has gone on. So morality plays absolutely 100% a big role in what goes on in our economic system. And many people that I discovered, many people within the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Treasury know this to be true. But they're stuck in this mindset that they have to continually adjust the system, bail out banks, give people money, create it out of thin air, destroy the value of the money for savers. They think they have to do that because the consequences of not doing that is the destruction of everybody's unbacked fiat wealth. So you got two problems. You can either destroy everybody's illusions of wealth, or you're going to go back to a sound monetary system. Now, the good thing about destroying the illusions of wealth, destroying the 401ks, your checking account, your savings account, is all debt is gone. All debt will be gone from the world when this happens. Remember, fiat money is a debt-based instrument, the fiat money that we live with today. Fiat meaning decreed by a government, a source power, which is ridiculous. It should have not lasted this long. Our founding fathers knew it. Everybody, before 1913, everybody knew this issue. Everybody knew the problem. And Woodrow Wilson signed the Federal Reserve Act in order to kind of ease into a system where there's massive amounts of gold. And again, that was the problem. That's still the problem today. Not the gold necessarily, because we don't need gold anymore as money, but the fact that the unbacked fiat monetary system has been allowed to continue, and the only way to allow it to continue is to lie, cheat, and steal and manipulate every market. And I mean every market, including the crypto markets, 100% manipulated, admitted to by Chris Giancarlo, the head of the CFTC, that they had to rig the Bitcoin market in 2017, 2018, or, quote, it would have just kept going higher. Well, the reason Bitcoin goes higher, the reason gold and silver should be going higher, but they're manipulated too, the reason is not that they're so great. The reason is that the unbacked fiat monetary system is so bad. Our current infrastructure is so bad. Everything we based our economic dealings on is so bad. That's the reason cryptos go up. That's the reason gold and silver should go up, although they're being manipulated. I hope this makes sense to everybody. It should. I shouldn't be driving and telling stories, but I think it's very important to remember that. Now back to the Clif High Bitcoin bin discussion. Clif High paints a very grim picture for our future. It's a realistic picture, not taking into account one thing. And I think this is the most important thing. I do believe from my research on the Fed, Treasury, everything I've done on the road to Ruta, I do believe there is a plan that the good guys have. They're going to take down the bad guys. They're trying to make it as sensible as possible. But again, everything needs to be destroyed to start again. No Nesra, no Gestra, no quantum financial system. That's what the bad guys want. They'll couch it as something, oh, it's great for humanity. It's bullshit. The best thing for humanity is for them to go to jail and their system to end, because it would destroy their power. Their power lies in the fact that they own 99.9% of all the fiat money instruments, all the debt-based instruments, all the leases and loans and everything that goes into the DTCC owned by Seed and Company. That's the bad guy's control, but it's a phantom control. Just because somebody has a piece of paper saying, I own this house, your mortgage is in this mortgage-backed security, which is owned by Seed and Company at the DTCC, doesn't mean shit if the system falls apart. Our legal system must be changed as well. So I hope everybody understands that. Now, getting back to the Ben and Clif discussion. Yes, I think Clif paints a very realistic picture of what potentially could happen. But there's another outcome, and that is that we do take down the bad guys. Yes, everybody would lose everything. The unbacked fiat monetary system would end. There would be chaos. There will be death no matter what we do. But we've had the good guys within the U.S. government who are in charge of this thing. They control the market rigging. They control all assets held by the bad guys. They don't even have to take down the system. All they have to do is stop the manipulation and allow silver to run free, which would take down the banks, which would take down everything. There is a way to reallocate money. That was Greenspan's idea all the time. How can we not rejigger the money with Nesra, Gestra, or a quantum financial system? How can we reallocate the money after the natural destruction of the global fiat monetary system because too big to fail banks went down? That's why in the late 1990s, Alan Greenspan was so adamant that the derivative market not be regulated at all. No regulation derivatives. Everybody, was going, oh my God, how could you give bankers this power? Very easy. You give them enough rope to hang themselves. Absolutely 100% was the plan from Alan Greenspan. The bankers are criminals. They're literally the greediest humans on the planet. I know, I was a banker. The bankers that control the system look for greed, and then after that, now that they control the money, they look for power and control. You can destroy them by allowing just one of these too big to fail banks to go down. That will take down other too big to fail banks. That will take down all banks, all savings and loans. Get your assets in your own possession. Now, Federal Reserve note pieces of paper might be good for a couple of weeks after a destruction of the banks, because we will never go back to the Federal Reserve system, the unbacked paper fiat monetary system or electronic fiat monetary system. They'll try to implement a central bank digital currency that is exactly the same thing as what we have right now. There is no difference. Now, if they had a blockchain that had a limited quantity and was decentralized and was immutable, meaning you can't change it, that could be a different deal. But no government on the planet would ever implement a system like that because it gives up control. And if they're not going to implement a system like that, we've already got systems in place such as Bitcoin, Litecoin, using gold and silver as money, physically walking into, I don't think banks will be around, but U.S. post offices that serve as banks, allocating real gold, real silver, paper promises of that. If you want paper in your pocket, electronic, digital promises, but you need to be able to go into any branch at any time and cash in your promises for the physical thing. That's what used to happen. That's what they were talking about in the Banking Basics comic book, is going into banks, bringing your paper money or your electronic digits. And if you don't trust the bank, you can take out your wealth in gold. And it was all gold because they have literally billions and billions of ounces of gold are available to the United States and around the world. Now, every country is going to have their own way to fix this issue. We are going to stop. Globalization will end abruptly when the banks go down, as in end. We will not be looking to China to make anything else for us for a hell of a long time. They have enough people to take care of on their own. I don't think we'll go to war with China either. It makes no sense. If we take down the banks, there's no need for war anymore, at least for a while. But we need to take down the banking cabal. And the good guys, I always fear as they, like Donald Trump was working for the good guys. He was the bull in a china shop. That's the guy we needed at the time. But, he had to keep the system going, so he rigged all markets. He continued to rig. He rigged it even more. Joe Biden, if he's the president, which I don't believe he is, but if he was the president, he's doing multiples of what Trump did as far as market rigging. Yes, they can place the price of gold and silver at negative $40 an ounce each. It just shows you how fake these markets are. That's what they did with oil. Of course, they can do it with gold, silver. They can do it with anything. And don't forget, they rigged the number one most important market in the world, which is the FX, foreign exchange. People are wondering, well, why is the dollar so strong? It's because they compare it with every other currency. We're on a floating regime, a floating currency system, meaning the dollar is not pegged to anything. We went off the gold standard in 71. A floating exchange system was developed in the 1970s by Alan Greenspan and Paul Volcker. Paul Volcker, when he became head of the Fed, number one thing he did, raise interest rates. Why? To fake the attempt at strengthening the dollar. What was really going on was Alan Greenspan was rigging the foreign exchange market with U.S. dollar derivatives. U.S. dollar derivatives are what control the value of the dollar versus everything else. There is no free market. Let me tell you that again. No free market in foreign exchange trades. It is 100% controlled by the Fed and the U.S. Treasury. The U.S. Treasury has an electronic trading floor in the basement of the U.S. Treasury. Most people don't know that either. And the Fed runs their rigging operations out of the Fed New York. So that's where we are. Again, back to Bitcoin Ben and Clif High. There are going to be problems. We are going to go through earth changes. But the good guys haven't been in charge of this game. At one point, they will pull the trigger and all the debt will be gone. We will reallocate money, I think, according to Social Security balances, which is probably the most fair way. It is what they talked about in the Road to Ruta documents, came out of the Fed Boston. It won't be perfect, and people will die, and people will hate it. But it will be, number one, an organic change. The destruction of the old system and the reallocation of wealth to the citizens is an organic thing to happen. Greenspan, in his book, called it a creative destruction event, meaning that although it is massive destruction, absolutely, people losing their life savings is destruction. The creative destruction event means it was necessary. And no one has to, decide, okay, I'm gonna crash this market or that market. All they have to do is stop rigging the silver market and the game is over. Stop rigging the gold market and the game is over. Let free markets reign, because free markets are the only way to achieve freedom. This is Bix Weir, roadtoruta.com. That's all I got for you right now. I'm loving my Echo. I'm loving Winnie. And we are going on the road in February. We will be preaching this story, this mission, from town to town, through speeches, through meetups, and through music. And hopefully we can do our little part to spread the word of freedom, and the future doesn't have to be as bleak as it could be. But that's up to us. That's up to us. We need to let truth reign. Stop the market rigging. Stop the unenforcement of laws. especially when it comes to the children of the world. The biggest problem, it goes hand in hand, this death cult of pedos. It's not good. And they control our lives for now. Their power lies in the control of the unbacked fiat monetary system. It all has to come down, and truth and honesty can once again reign in the world, especially the United States has to stand up. We need to show the world that this can be done. This is Bix Weir, RoadToRuler.com. I'll talk to you later.